I had initially planned on doing a basic video outlining who I thought would be on the cover of EA Sports College Football 25. But earlier last week, Matt Brown released an article in his Extra Points newsletter stating that in spite of popular speculation, the cover athlete would not be a coach, but would be multiple athletes from different power conferences across the country and will all play different positions, which has thrown a complete wrench in my original video idea, but gave birth to a new one all at the same time. I was watching this video by the Gaming Tailgate, and they were discussing who they thought the cover athlete might be. Turns out they have some pretty good guesses based on the poll of players that Matt Brown hinted at as possibilities, but that wasn't the part of the video that stuck out to me the most. In another section, they talked about the posters that have been popping up across college campuses across the nation and how they were all placed in random places across the universities, some of which appeared to be abandoned buildings, implying that the game is currently under construction. While I don't believe that last part has anything to do with who the cover athletes might be, just hang in there with me for a minute. So obviously these posters are meant to be part of the promotion of the new game, but there was supposed to be 15 of them, in which only 12 have been located. Now, assuming how monumental of an event that this is, that the game that we all love is returning after an 11-year hiatus, it's safe to say that fans would have taken pictures of these posters if they were already out there in the wild. But to my knowledge, no new images have been posted all in well over a week. Now that leaves me to think, has EA even put up the remaining posters, or are they saving them for another occasion? Something bigger. I believe the key to figuring out who the cover athletes might be lie within the missing posters. And now I'm on the hunt to try and solve this mystery. After piecing together the clues that I've gathered from multiple different sources, I believe that I may have cracked the code on who the cover athletes might be. Now let's get some ground rules out of the way first. Matt Brown, in any of his interviews nor his blog, explicitly came out and said how many different variations of the cover we're going to get. He only explicitly stated multiple. Now traditionally over the last few years, EA has gone the route of 3 different variations. You have your standard edition, your deluxe edition, and your ultra premium edition. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to call that version of the game the Legacy Edition, and you'll see why later on. But with that format, that would leave us with 3 different athletes on the cover of these games. All 3 of those athletes being shared across both consoles. Because as of right now, we don't have a confirmed PC release of the game, which that wouldn't come in physical anyway. It would just be a digital cover athlete. And there's also the possibility of them going back to the way that they used to do things on the PS3 and Xbox 360 era. Let's call it pre-2011, where it was just Tim Tebow, but you had 2 different art styles of Tim Tebow. Back in 2010, you had different cover athletes across both consoles. So multiple could mean 2 separate console exclusive covers and a shared Legacy Edition cover that would still also give you 3 athletes total. Now, part of what Matt Brown said was there would be different athletes of different positions across the power conferences. Now, as you all know, there's more than just 3 power conferences, and there's already been some discourse as one conference is not happy with being seen as inferior to the others. Now, I'm not quite in this camp, but there is also the possibility of getting 2 console exclusive covers, with each of those consoles having a standard edition and a Legacy Edition, all with unique cover athletes. So now I have to think, what would be a reason for EA to exclude someone from being on the cover of the game? I would think that they would exclude someone who hasn't even played a down of football yet, like one of your current incoming freshmen, like a Dylan Raiola, kid who plays quarterback in Nebraska. Next, I would have to think that they would want a projected starter on the cover of the game. So that would disqualify somebody like an Arch Manning. And then the last thing, which I feel like I'm probably the most wrong about this, but I would think that they would want somebody that was not a newly transferred player, like a Damian Martinez or a Cam Ward. Although I could absolutely see them go the opposite route with that so that they can show off that the transfer portal, which is something huge that's been added to the game that was not in previous versions, is actually in this year's iteration of the game. Now let's get down to these missing posters. So like I said earlier, there was supposed to be 15 posters across all of these different college campuses. But as of now, only 12 have been identified. Now most of these schools appear to be nationally recognized names out of Power 5 conferences, with Tulane and Boise State representing the group of 5. But there are absolutely some names missing from this that I would consider national household names. First up, we have Washington, which is the runner-up for last year's national championship game. I can absolutely see Washington as one of the schools that would have these posters. However, all of the star power that they had from last year left to the NFL, and the only remaining player that I could come up with was wide receiver Denzel Boston. Now, Boston is a really good up-and-coming receiver, but I don't think he really quite carries the cachet that will warrant him a spot as a cover athlete. And with that, I'm going to say he's out. Up next, we have Georgia. The back-to-back national champions from 2 seasons ago deserve to have one of their players grace the cover. And who I can see that being is none other than quarterback Carson Beck. I think Beck did a phenomenal job replacing the production that they had lost at the position with Stetson Bennett, and he's still known as one of the top quarterbacks in the SEC right now. So with that being said, I'm going to have to give him the nod as being the person that represents the SEC in the quarterback spot. Now moving on to a school that absolutely took the nation by storm and absolutely had the college football world buzzing with the splash that they made to begin last season. A team with enough star power that I absolutely could have seen them getting one of those posters with all of their star players on it. And I'm talking about none other than the Colorado Buffaloes. And this person has been the most popular pick across all the different media sources that I've seen, having the talent to play both offense and defense on his respective team, and that's Travis Hunter. Travis would be the perfect pick for this, seeing as he could cover both the defensive back and the wide receiver spot. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to have him taking the DB spot. That's 2 posters down and 1 to go. Another school that has a huge national following is the University of Nebraska. However, the pick I have to represent them breaks one of my rules as the type of player that I would consider EA to exclude during this process, and that would be Dylan Raiola, incoming freshman quarterback. Seeing as he hasn't actually taken a snap of college football yet, I can't see them rolling with this, and for that one, I think he's out. And kind of the same thing could be said for this next university, and that would be none other than the University of Miami, seeing as both the options that I would have picked to be on the cover to represent them and the ACC being incoming transfers, but most notably Damian Martinez. Although it would be nice to see a running back grace the cover, I don't think he gets the nod here. But like I said earlier, EA could absolutely choose a newly transferred player to represent the fact that they do have the transfer portal in the game now. Even though I think it's a strong possibility, I'm just going to count this one as a no. Now, this next school will be an amazing pick to have representation, as they're known nationally year in and year out to be one of the toughest teams to beat in all of college football, and that's the Utah Utes. Cam Rising will be the perfect pick for this, as he's a representation of someone who's made a career out of being a college quarterback. However, the quarterback position is already taken. So with that, I'm going to say he's an out. Now, we still have 1 poster to go, and there's one huge premium brand of college football that hasn't been represented yet. Now, I would like to think that the first 2 players that I believe would get the nod for the cover would be EA's safe pick. But what if EA wanted to do something different, something flashy? Which is why I think it would be fitting to give a player with video game speed and video game agility the nod for a cover. I'm talking about USC's own Zachariah Branch taking that wide receiver spot and the spot for the Big Ten. Branch put the college football world on notice when he came out with 232 all-purpose yards and 2 touchdowns in his debut. The kid is giving me DeAnthony Thomas and Tavon Austin vibes, and I'm here for it. And he has the potential to be just as electric as another USC legend that just got his Heisman back. While my poster theory was a really fun one to speculate on, and even has me convinced there's a real possibility, I do think some of my picks for that were kind of a reach. And if I had to make some actual picks that were a bit more grounded in realism, I think it would go a little bit more like this. Representing the Big 12, again, we have Travis Hunter, DB/wide receiver out of Colorado, with my close second behind him being Shedeur Sanders, quarterback out of Colorado. Representing the SEC will be Quinn Ewers, quarterback out of Texas, with my next man up being Luther Burden, wide receiver out of Missouri. And from the Big 10, I will have Donovan Edwards, running back out of Michigan, with a close second being either Caleb Downs or Emeka Egbuka, both out of Ohio State. And finally, from the ACC, we got Patrick Payton, edge rusher out of Florida State, with the second behind him being either Damian Martinez or Cam Ward from Miami. I think with those selections, you cover your bases of some of the more popular schools and universities throughout the country represent each of their respective conferences, even though I do feel some type of way about Michigan. But Donovan Edwards was still absolutely key to them securing their title. Now, I have no idea how many different versions of this game that EA plans to put out, but I do have it on good authority, that being Matt Brown, that we could expect more than 2 and less than 5. So I do feel like my guess of 3 to 4 cover athletes would be about right. 4 being that you're covering all 4 of your major conferences, and 3 being more in line with how Madden has released their games over the last few years with the 3 different versions. Now, provided that we do get that higher tier version of the game that EA Sports likes to put out, I really like the thought of them calling it the Legacy Edition, as it plays in hand nicely with something that I mentioned in the previous video. Although earlier on, Arch Manning's camp has denied his involvement in this game, stating that he's more focused on football on the field than off of it. But we also haven't heard anything else regarding this situation since. And we also haven't heard anything from another legacy football talent as far as his involvement in this game either. So something that I would really like to see happen would be this. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. To any of my subscribers who think they know who the cover athletes will be, put your answers down in the comments below. And whoever can correctly guess all of the cover athletes, up to 4 of them, depending on how many versions we get, prior to the full reveal coming out, will get an extra entry placed in my giveaway drawing when the game releases, which I will be announcing my giveaway bingo for the full reveal trailer reaction shortly. So stay tuned for that. And if you enjoyed this type of content and would like to see more of it in the future, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't have to miss out. Stay blessed, y'all. I'm out of here.